One hot second later, and I think we are live on the YouTubes. Glad to see you guys back. It's been a while. We were out last week. Welcome back to the Weekly Narrative. This is your number one alt-centrist podcast on the internet, folks. We are here to give you the perspective that you don't really get anywhere else. How we looking, how we sounding on the YouTube over there. I want to make sure we're all good before we start talking and realizing we're not good. What's up, Synergy and Holly in the chat? What's going on, guys? Glad to see you back. We got a pretty good show lined up for you today. PJ Fan, what's going on? Man, Clown World. The title of the stream today is Clown World because it is an absolute clown world out there, guys. It's only getting worse. We're going to be talking about some cryptocurrency enforcement teams getting set up by the government. For those of you who are invested in crypto or interested in crypto, this is going to be big, and I'm going to tell you why you should care, even if you don't invest in crypto. We're going to do a quick update from Australia, see where they're at. I think we already know how that's going to look. We got a couple new race hoaxes because, again, we're in clown world where there is no actual racism, so we have to create racism out of thin air with race hoaxes. We're going to go over a couple new ones, and these are pretty good. These are funny. These are really funny ones. They're getting so low quality. We're going to play a little game and see if we can find all the ways that this is not real racism. We're going to be talking about the mutant parasites. That's right. We talk about the mutants a lot, and I think I'm going to be changing the definition of the mutants. They're not just mutants anymore. They're mutant parasites. And the first thing that they are looking to parasitize is our culture. How do we know that? Because they have now made Superman and Lord of the Rings gay. If you don't believe me, stick around. We're going to be talking about how the new DC Superman is bisexual, and the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, which is like I think it's a $500 million series they're spending money on. They're going to pack it full of multicultural and diverse characters. We'll go into that. And look at some other cultural artifacts that the left has tried to put out, like that new movie, the Fauci movie, and then the reaction to Dave Chappelle's new special. We're going to go over that as well. Pretty juicy stuff. And we're going to be ending the show with a very strange segment about aspirin. You might be asking yourself, what's so special? Why are we talking about aspirin? Well, we'll get into that, but it looks like, and here's just a little teaser for you to keep you on the hook until the end of the show. Aspirin, turns out, it's very effective in protecting against COVID infection and COVID severe outcomes. So all of a sudden, there is a push against aspirin. Now we'll go over that later on in the show. I hear the stereos popping in already. I think everybody's ready to go. Delaney, are you ready to go?
I'm ready. I got my seatbelt, my chin strap, my elbow pads, my knee pads, and my bulletproof vest on. Let's do this.
Perfect. All right, let's get into it. The nice graphics and the videos and whatnot that we show. So, okay, who we got? We got Dari up in chat over here too. What's going on, Dari? Paul says, Delaney, you're a woman. You can't talk about knee pads without sophomoric innuendos. Thank you for that, Paul. Appreciate that. Let's get into the first. Paul's going to warm us up on the stereo too, as usual. Here we go. Whoops.
Battle on B put it best when they did
You restart that.
just to get things rolling and just get ahead of the Superman thing. Battle on B put it best when they did a story. Superman criticized being unrealistic for Clark Kent showing a reporter as heroic. That was perfect.
Babylon Bee does not miss. I don't know if you guys are aware, but you should be consuming Babylon Bee content, even if you're not a Christian, because it is a Christian outlet. But they make perfect stuff for the crazy clown world time that we live in. And how could you? I mean, it's not hard. You know, where's the Saturday Night Lives? Where's all the other comedians making fun of all this absurdity that's happening right now? There's so much content. Ryan Long just put out a new video today. He was basically asking people to denounce Brian Laundrie, the guy who apparently killed that girl. They were doing the van life together. It was so perfect. It's such a genius comedy because these people were literally, they would not denounce a murderer, but they'll denounce Trump supporters. They'll denounce people who don't want to take the vaccine. They'll say we need to take care of these anti-vaxxers. Well, what about the murderer? What about Brian Laundrie, the murderer? Oh, well, I don't want to rush to judgment. It's so great.
Oh, wow.
It's absolute clown world. If you don't watch Ryan Long's content on YouTube either, I definitely recommend that as well. That being said, let's get started here. The first story of the day, I don't know about you guys, but I am big in cryptocurrency, and I want to make sure you guys are aware of what's happening here. We talk about the constrictor, the boa constrictor strategy that's happening right now on the American public. And basically what that entails, as far as I describe it anyway, is any chance that the government can get to kind of restrict your freedoms or your ability to kind of thrive in America, no matter what angle it's coming from, they're going to take the opportunity to squeeze you a little bit harder. One of those being, for example, the recent news we're getting about the fact that the Biden administration wants to see your bank account activity if you have over $600 in your bank account. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I did. I heard about that.
I don't know if...
Get the hell out of my bank account, Biden.
I don't know if there's any validity to what they're trying to do there, but okay, so they want to monitor your bank accounts, right, if you have over $600. And now, if you're involved in cryptocurrency at all, you need to be aware that there is a new National Cryptocurrency Enforcement team that's being formed by the government under the guise of what? Now, you probably don't know about this yet, Delaney, but what would you say? If you were to take a random guess as to why they would start to look at enforcing cryptocurrency restrictions, what would they do it in the name of? Just a couple random guesses. What do you think?
Maybe for taxes, because I'm not sure how crypto works, but it always has to do with money.
It's a good guess.
It always has to do with like the government getting their cut.
There you go. Yeah, it's illicit profits from criminals. So basically, under the table profit, or I mean, they're trying to justify it where they're looking for ransomware and cyber criminals and things like that. But we all know exactly where this is going. You guys know where this is going, right? They start by saying that it's for organized crime. And then guess what? The next time you try to make a deposit to your bank account from your cryptocurrency account, it may not go through. The next time you try to withdraw money into your Coinbase account to get some cryptocurrency, guess what? Well, you're going to have all these restrictions. If it's over $1,000, then you can't. What they're trying to do is increase your reliance on their monetary system and decrease your ability to become independent of their system. And that's exactly what cryptocurrency represents. Some head honcho over in the UK just came out today and also said that cryptocurrency like Bitcoin represents a potential like financial catastrophe for us. And what he really means is not for you and me. Like cryptocurrency is great for us because it allows us to separate from the Fed, right? And it means it's a catastrophe for him and his people that want to keep you on the plantation of the dollar or the euro or whatever it may be. So anyway, let's jump into the story from the Wall Street Journal, get a couple snippets out of this. I didn't want to make a big segment out of this. I just wanted to make you guys aware that they are coming for your money and they're coming for your ability to be independent from the system because they know guys like me are telling you to join parallel societies, to leave society, to get off this system and form your own new systems. And now they're onto us. They're really onto us.
Yeah.
They
want their cut of whatever money you make.
They want their cut, but that's the second half of it. Yeah, that's exactly right. That not only do they want you to be dependent on their system, but they want to make sure they get their cut as well. The U.S. Justice Department is creating a national cryptocurrency enforcement team to tackle investigations and prosecutions of criminal misuses of cryptocurrency and to recover the illicit proceeds from these crimes. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said Wednesday, and you know that anytime the cops have the ability to seize something, whether you've got $20,000 in your car or a truck full of guns or money or whatever it is coming across the border, or now a cryptocurrency wallet that have illicit links to some criminal organizations, well, gives them a reason to come and just take it. And what do you think they do with that money? Do you think they just let it sit in a locker and don't use it? No.
Nope.
No, they take that Camaro that they've confiscated and they turn it into a cop car. They take that money and they spend it on themselves. Okay, this is how they work. A virtual currency mixer or tumbler charges customers a fee to send cryptocurrencies to a designated address in a manner designed to conceal the source or owner of the currency. So this is kind of a laundering, not necessarily a laundering service, but it's a way for transactions to be anonymized in the cryptocurrency world. Because as far as transactions are concerned in the cryptocurrency world, everything is tracked and public, which is very, it's as transparent as you could possibly get. I can look at your wallet. I can see where you sent money, where you received money at the exact second, how long it took, et cetera, et cetera. And a mixer or tumbler would have removed their ability for them to track those transactions. So they're going after those. But NCNet, they're calling it. So listen for that term in the coming future, NCNet. Okay, NCNet would strengthen DOJ's capacity to dismantle the financial entities that enable criminal actors to flourish and, quite frankly, to profit from abusing cryptocurrency platforms. So a couple key red flag buzzwords in that sentence. Abusing. That's such a general term. They can say anything is abuse, right? Nowadays, if you play a video game and you say a bad word to somebody, you're abusing them. You're abusing the terms of service, et cetera, et cetera. If you make target somebody on Twitter, for example, the word abuse means nothing and everything at the same time. And they say financial entities. Okay, that's also an interesting one, because if you were talking about financial entities, that could be a cryptocurrency exchange, for example. That is a financial entity. And we talked about already how big banks like JP Morgan are trying to start their own cryptocurrencies. So I can imagine a world, it's not a stretch to imagine a world where they start to outlaw these non-inline, non-deep state financial institutions in order to let the deep state financial institutions flourish and take over the market. So that's what you guys can expect. Me personally, I still have quite a bit in cryptocurrency, and I think that when the dollar just implodes, or if you want something that can work internationally, cryptocurrency is a great solution to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the amount of money that the Federal Reserve is printing now, we kind of have to get into other avenues of making money and spending our money. So I, for one, am cool with cryptocurrency. I'm not cool with the government creating another task force that's kind of unnecessary, because I feel like this market should be able to regulate itself, as opposed to them stepping in and being like, no, you guys don't know better than us. You got to use our money, not this fake, this weird money that we can't get our hands on.
Yeah, and Paul says it quite well in the YouTube chat. He says criminal actors, in quotes, means escaping the petrodollar, and that's really kind of the point that we're trying to get at here. But I will say, we're objectivists here, okay? We look at everything from an objective standpoint. As a cybersecurity expert, I can definitely see the value in trying to create some kind of law enforcement in the cybersecurity cryptocurrency world, because it is absolutely true that all of these organizations that are hitting healthcare, hitting banks, hitting big corporations with ransomware are using cryptocurrency as the form of payment. So I can see why there's a legitimate reason to create this and go after these people. However, we all know that the government will use and abuse this power. The scope of the objective of this organization will rapidly increase as the definition of criminal actors or shady financial institutions or abuse, all those definitions will rapidly expand as well. So they will eventually try to use this to cut down on your ability to be free from the petrodollar.
Yep.
Okay, so there's that. Let's go to the next story of the day. Quickly, just a quick look at Australia, see what's going on over in Australia, and make sure you guys are just keeping up to date on what's going on over there and down on the land down under. There is a video that came out just the other day of some cops. Now, there's been some other instances of this kind of thing happening too, so this isn't exactly unique or particularly new. Along with the ability for Twitter to not play videos for me while I'm streaming, that is also not new. But it's okay, you don't need to see the video. In this particular case, 2 cops are at a guy's door with a packet. With the packet of papers contains screenshots from a Facebook page, and they're asking him if he attended a protest several months ago, and they're asking him questions like, why were you there? What were you doing? Did you enter this building? Where did you go? And this is the state of Australia. The cops are going door to door for people who are at protests and trying to crack down on them, asking them questions, and getting them to implicate themselves in crimes that they didn't take part in, just so they can scare them into not protesting and going out in public anymore. So Australia's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, Australia is down the drain. I knew it was going down the drain because I saw a video similar to this last year. They showed up to a lady's house to arrest her for posting misinformation about COVID on her own personal Facebook page. And it's not like they were there to warn her. They were there to straight up arrest her. And she had like her children in the house with her husband in the house with her, and they just showed up and arrested her for posting stuff about COVID, posting any kind of quote unquote misinformation. I knew it was going down the drain when I saw that, but now that I see this video, I'm like, yeah, it's for sure going down the drain. Poor Australia.
I mean, this is real. And the funny thing about this too is if you watch interactions with these people and the Australian police, the Australian police seem quite a bit more amateurish than American cops. Like American cops, they wouldn't take any kind of back talk. They wouldn't take any kind of verbal abuse. They get into kind of like a verbal back and forth argument with each other in these, and that seems to be consistent across multiple police interactions in Australia. So it seems like in general, it's almost, again, clown world. These people are playing cops. They're playing authoritative figures, but I think deep down they know that like they're absolute clowns, and the whole public sees them as clowns, but they're stuck in that kind of rock and a hard place where they have to do their job even though they know it's BS, because they are like multiple levels below American cops in their seriousness.
Yeah, for real. They are very, like, I feel like American cops wouldn't even bother doing this. I feel like a lot of cops are just kind of fed up with this crap, and they're like, we've got way bigger fish to fry than somebody posting something on their social media page.
Mm-hmm. Or they would just bust your door
instead,
down and take you. They wouldn't sit there and have a verbal conversation with you at the door like, well, what do you got to hide, buddy? Stuff like that. Like, that's what they were doing here. And it's like, they would just take you away. There would be no conversations happening. All right, we got stereo that came in. Let's go see Kizza's in the house.
No, guys, you got it wrong. Australia hasn't become communist. Australia's returning to how it always was meant to be. A giant prison colony.
Yep.
So it was the period of freedom that they had. That was the anomaly. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess.
Let's see. Most of the cops in Australia look like they haven't trained in years, says PJ Fan. That's a good point too. Yeah, that guy was kind of fat, out of shape, bald. So was the woman. She was, and a lot of other videos I see the cops are kind of older looking. I don't know. It's almost like they don't have to actually enforce any real laws. They don't have to fight any real criminals. They're not in any actual physical danger ever. So they kind of just become like a door-to-door clerical service, more so than a actual law enforcement, physical enforcement entity. Because it got so good and so soft over there that's what they evolved into. Let's see. Misinformation is a catch-all phrase now. We have it within the media, at least the internet. We have laws to protect us from that sort of thing. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if those laws hold up, Dari. I don't know. I think we're getting to the stage where law is quickly becoming meaningless, and it's really subjective as to how it's applied. It's very subjective as to how it's applied. So it's only a matter of time before it becomes completely just a choice, really, to follow or enforce particular laws, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Speaking of laws, you know what's not a crime? Calling someone a racial epithet, yelling a racial word at somebody. Now, there was this is funny. This is from Long Island. NBC New York. This is our race hoax segment of the night. We're moving on to the race hoaxes. There were multiple ones out there. A couple noteworthy ones that I want to talk about. The first one is Long Island Theater cancels show over alleged racist comments lobbed at cast member. I love that word, lobbed. I think we need to use that more often in general conversation. Lobbed, like a trebuchet lobbed, the word like a racist word to somebody. The NBC New York says that a Long Island theater canceled Sunday night's performance of Smokey Joe's Cafe following claims that racist comments were made towards one of its cast members. Oh no!
Oh my goodness!
Somebody was
Cancel a whole show.
one of the cast members was walking to a parking lot, and they don't leave. They had this in the article, but I saw it in the video coverage of the local news channel. They said he was like a block and a half away from the theater. So one of the people that was in the show was in the parking lot a block and a half away from the theater, and somebody lobbed a racist comment at them, and then they canceled the show.
Wow.
Tell me this isn't Clown World. This is a joke, right? This is like a skit. Maybe it's a comedy theater and they're playing this as a big elaborate hoax prank, like a joke type thing, because give me one rational reason why a show would get canceled. Because somebody, probably just a drunk homeless guy, honestly, because I've heard that happen many times in my day, just yell the word and then the show a block and a half over gets canceled because one of the actors heard a racial epithet. Tell me how that works. What's up, Miklo? Welcome to the chat.
I mean, I'm guessing they probably assumed that this guy was going to go to the show and scream more racial, slurs at the cast. But
Maybe
that's a pretty big assumption. That's a pretty big assumption to cancel an entire show over one guy a block and a half away from the theater being an idiot and saying something stupid like that. This is like overkill when it comes to protecting people.
So the video reaction to this is actually so good. I recommend you guys go to CBS New York and watch. This is NBC New York, actually, the webpage, but go to CBS New York and watch the video that they made about this segment. The reaction to this was almost as if a bomb was dropped on the town and all these different organizations activated to come to the defense. Like there was a white guy who was like, there was a white woman who's like, we're the anti-racist not in our town organization, and I'm here to say that this is a common thing now. This is happening all the time. And just the other day in our North Point High School, somebody drew a swastika on the bathroom door. I'm like, this is a joke. This has got to be a joke. That's like, so her theory, I think, is that there are roaming bands, wait for it, of rabid, racist high schoolers who are looking to shut down theaters and draw swastikas on bathroom stalls. That sounds like a very credible and dangerous threat to me. Personally, that's something I would want addressed immediately. There were other guys that were like, some guy came on the segment. He's like, "Oh, I'm Billy Bob from the anti-bias department here in North Point Town." It's like, first of all, why does this 7,000 population town have an anti-bias organization, and why does this 7,000 person town have a no hate in my city organization? What's going on in this city? And then you realize that I think 90% of the cast members of this show are black. And then the picture starts to come together for me. This is like a Juicy Smollett situation, right? Where the black people, they want some attention, right? Maybe they're not getting very good attendance at the shows. So, let's just say somebody yelled a racist word at me in the parking lot. Because, you know what? Well, that'll give me attention. And obviously, I'm talking about it right now. It's all over the news. And all you got to do is cancel one show, and then you'll be pretty much famous. And the last funny thing that the news channel said was that it was a crime. They said, this crime has since gone unreported. He didn't want to press charges for this crime. Like, wait, this is not a crime. It's not a crime to say a bad word. Clown World.
Being an idiot is not a crime. Yelling stupid obscenities is not a crime. If it was a crime, then a lot of people will be locked up. Like the homeless guy that called me, gay slurs would be locked up if it was a crime. But what did I do? I just went about my day and just laughed at him. So I feel like this is all a publicity kind of thing. Like I think you're onto something. I think the attendance for the show was probably like teetering, and in order to get people to fill the seats because they feel bad because this poor black cast got a racial slurs thrown at them that would make people got lobbed at them. I think that people will feel bad enough for them and be like, oh, we need to support these black actors, and we need to make sure the show goes on.
Like, listen to this. The police department confirmed the report and urged anyone with information to come forward. Oh, information about what? Nothing happened. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, this is, and here's the last clue that you need to know. It was relayed to NPD that the victim did not wish to file a police report. Okay.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it was such a heinous crime that you don't
Yeah.
report it to the cops because you were so aggrieved and you need some justice that you don't report it to the police. Yep, sounds about right. Sounds like I smell a hoax.
Yeah, this is so the next one is going to be this was just as good. We're going to go to Parkway Central High School and this is almost as good as the other one where they spray painted the swastika on the wall and it was like backwards or whatever, but we'll jump into it right after we get to this comment from Osus.
Oh, dude, that's nothing. The Tesla lawsuit was settled.
Oh yeah.
Settled. I guess it went all the way through.
I heard about that too.
The guy was awarded $130 million for employees using the familiar version of the N-word, which I really just wish I could say because it's stupid that I can't. Anyway, they awarded this guy money because other guys were like, yeah, what's up, man? That's some real clown world shit right there. Oh, that's racial discrimination, except that they're using it in a familiar, friendly manner.
Right?
What a fucking joke.
Clown world, my friend. Tesla must pay $137 million to ex-worker over hostile work environment, comma, racism. So, I mean, who is the real loser in that situation? You got to ask yourself. The dude got called like a... Oh, it says Diaz told the court the colleagues used epithets and told him to go back to Africa. And left racist graffiti in the restrooms and a racist draw. Oh, man, I mean... I have to endure a racist drawing. I don't even know how I could live with myself. You know, I need at least 100 million to make up for that. But,
yeah, right. I had to witness a racist drawing in the bathroom. Give me my money. Give me my money, Elon.
Yeah, speaking of racist drawings, let's go to this absolute joke. The Clown World, folks. We're in Clown World. This is so pathetic. Parkway Central students walk out after racist graffiti found in bathrooms.
Oh my god.
Quote, "We are tired, we are angry, we need change," said sophomore Shanisha Allen, who addressed Parkway Central High School principal Tim. Yeah, so after racial hate messages were found in the bathrooms at Parkway Central High School, about 1,000 students walked out over the administration offices sharing personal experiences of racism and inequality. Man, I can imagine the stories that they are sharing, you know, like being followed to school by truckfuls of white guys carrying baseball bats, you know, calling her names and telling her they're going to beat her as soon as she comes out of school. She probably has to witness black people hanging from nooses from the trees as she walks home. She probably gets threatened with being lynched on the weekly basis, but I can't imagine what she had to endure to walk out of school in the hundreds or even in the thousands to warrant. Let's see what warranted this. Let's see if we can. I'll have to find a picture here, but from Chesterfield, several hundred students, tired and angry, they found a racist graffiti was found in the bathrooms in 2 schools. So it was a swastika, and I think it said something about the Klan. Let me see if I can find pictures here. Now, this is interesting. I knew what the story was, but I needed an article to cover for this, so I found this article from STL Today, and I'm noticing that there is a distinct lack of actual pictures of the stall in this article. So let me see if I can pick up a picture of this stall real quick, because this is gonna give it away. Okay, we're gonna play a little game of find the hoax, and it's gonna be really easy for you guys because we've seen this one before. All right, let's see here. Searching.
I mean, how do they know that? How do they know that it was like a white kid or some racist kid that did the graffitiing? I mean, it's entirely possible that one of the colored students or the people of color kids went in there and did it and then claimed racism and said it was a white kid that did it or the Klan member that did it.
Yeah, well, statistically speaking, it's much more likely for it to be a black person because I don't think we've seen one of these and caught a corresponding white person to go with it.
Yeah.
So,
We haven't
okay.
really caught anybody doing it. I mean, most of the time it just gets done and then they blame it on the white kids. And it's like, how do you know it was the white kids that did it? Did you physically see them do it? Do you have a video? Do you have a picture of this white kid or this Nazi kid doing it? Because until you give me a picture of that, I won't believe that it was a white kid.
All right, folks, let's play Spot the Hoax. We love this game. We played this multiple times before. On the picture of the screen, we've got a potentially racist message. Well, let's you decide whether this is legitimate or not. First of all, we got a swastika that is backwards. That's a common mistake. You know, these black people, they don't actually see a lot of swastikas, so we got to give them credit. They tried, but it is a backwards swastika, so that's inaccurate right there. But also below it, it says "Hail the Ku Klux Klan." Multiple errors there.
The
Yeah,
Ku Klux Klan.
yeah.
They
First of
don't
all,
even know about it.
it's they don't even have the name right. Maybe this is potentially a new branch of the Ku Klux Klan. They added an L into the Ku to signify some new evolution of the Ku Klux Klan. But that's your second error. The third error is that the swastika doesn't really have anything to do with the Ku Klux Klan. It's not their symbol.
Yeah.
The swastika is a symbol of neo-Nazis, not the Ku Klux Klan. And they don't say "Hail the Ku Klux Klan." That's you've got all your racism is reversed. Clearly, you weren't taught proper racism in history's class at your school. I think we should evaluate the criteria or the curriculum of the history classes there because they're definitely not teaching them about Nazis properly. They're definitely not teaching about the Ku Klux Klan properly. So, if anything, I think this speaks volumes about the educational quality at this school. Now, keep in mind, this particular Ku Klux Klan backwards swastika is what garnered 1,000 students to walk out and claim, let's see, what was their claim again? Oh yeah, we are tired, we are angry, we need change. You're tired of what exactly? What are you
You need
tired of?
change. How about tell the kids to stop graffitiing? That's a change. How about actually go to school instead of walking out? That's a real change. You're missing out on you're missing out on your education and learning that the KKK and the neo-Nazis are two separate organizations. So maybe you need to stay in school, kids.
I bet their grades are actually probably pretty terrible. You know, they're probably really stupid. And they of course they choose to focus on this over their actual education. This is something that will not get them anywhere in life, but if they actually focus on their education, they could equal out some of those imbalances in the economic disparities that we see between blacks and whites, but we know they would much rather just give in to their emotions and cry about a fake swastika, about the fake Ku Klux Klan, which is just honestly hilarious. I mean, come on, what kind of self-respecting white supremacist would get the swastika backwards? Come on.
Right? What kind of self-respecting KKK member would do Ku Klux Klan? What are you in a Clue board game group or now something where you're all white supremacists playing Clue?
Yeah, there you go. It's a white supremacist variation on Clue where you got to find the instead of a rope, it's a noose in the game. So, yeah, absolute clown world, people. This is clown world. Okay, I don't take any of this stuff seriously anymore. These people are not serious. They're not deserving of being taken seriously, and nobody will ever correct this. Nobody will ever say, that swastika looks backwards. Are you sure that was like a white person that did that? When they find out it was a black person, because they probably have security cameras in the school, they're never going to look back and say, well, maybe we should not walk out of class every time we find something that offends us, and maybe we should not assume that it wasn't a hoax. There's never going to be a time, despite the fact that we're already at like an 80 to 90% hoax rate on these things, maybe even higher. I would say 95% hoax rate on these things. There's never going to be a time where they say, wait a minute, pump the brakes just a little bit. Maybe it's not real. It's never going to get to the point because if they're going to, even though it's completely fake, backward swastika, Ku Klux Klan, even though it's completely fake, all of it's fake, they will still act like it's real to utilize it for their own benefit. So this is never going to stop. This is clown world. We're on the spiral of clown world now. You guys understand that, right? Like, this is not going to ever end.
And what I'm thinking too is if there are neo-Nazis and kids whose family are in the KKK, I doubt that their parents would be sending them to public school where there are a bunch of black and brown people for them to be around. Most of the
That's a good
time
point,
I've
too.
noticed they're usually homeschooled.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. I mean, judging by this picture, the school is predominantly black. So, yeah, if I was racist, I probably wouldn't send my kid to that school either. Let's see. What's up, JC Stack? Paul says, this is the best/dumbest timeline. Well, you know what? I think this is... We've evolved past physical selection. Selection meaning, selection forces like the term natural selection. You have to survive the weather. You have to survive predators. We don't have any physical selection forces anymore. It's all psychological selection forces. And this is something that you could fall victim to as a psychological selection force where when you believe this, just think about it. If a child believes this, take two twins, all right? Let's do a twin study right now. You send one to this school where they cry about every little racist thing. They walk out, they miss their education. They believe in F's or A's or B's or performance. And you take the other kid and you send him to a school where they don't complain about racism. Same exact genetics, but he actually gets an education. Who's going to have a better outcome in that? This is natural selection in action, but in a psychological way, where they are distracted by these psychological selection forces to lead themselves voluntarily into a path of destruction and less success in life. How is it anything but that? That's what all these mutant ideologies are. It's all literally psychological natural selection. They're taking themselves out of the breeding pool, out of the success pool, voluntarily because it feels good, because of the emotionality, right? It's quite fascinating to watch. So yeah, I think you're right. It's the best, dumbest timeline, but this is, it's also, there is no other timeline. You are always going to be in a timeline where selection forces are acting on us. It's they're either physical or they're psychological. So it's almost like this was inevitable.
And I think Thomas Sowell said it best. The only reason that racism is still alive and kicking in this world is because people are keeping it alive. Me and you talked about this maybe like a month ago about how the whole racism thing, it's a dying car on the road and people are like still trying to push it down the road even though there's no gas in it left. And it's stuff like this that is like keeping it flourishing, even if it's fake, even if it's not real. It's keeping it alive, even though it's dying. It's out of gas, but we're keeping it alive. And the more people keep doing stupid crap like this and keeping that racism boat alive, it's never going to end, unfortunately.
Yeah, Holly's got a good point in YouTube chat too. She says perceived racism, which is the subject of both of these stories, and that's actually 100% accurate because we don't live in a world anymore where we can see the real objective racism happening right before our eyes, and we can all agree that it's racism because there aren't black people hanging from trees anymore with the N-word written on their shirt and spray paint. That is objective racism that we can all see and look at and say, yep, that's really bad. That's not happening anymore. So now we've downgraded to this, whatever they feel like calling racism, it's perceived racism. So, but they act like it's the same thing. That's the problem, is they act like black people are hanging from trees, when in reality, some black person probably just wrote us backward swastika on the, the bathroom stall. Clown world. I gotta get a honking sound effect. He's
Right?
he's just upset about Clown World. It's okay.
He is. Be quiet, you.
Let's see. Okay, solar flare. Yeah, we got hit by a solar storm the other day. Too bad I'm not in the northern hemisphere, the northern latitudes anymore, because it probably was a really nice light show out there the other day. Let's go to these two stereos, and then we'll go to the next story.
I hate to be a tawdry gossiper, but actually I don't. Biden's Twitter account, which Twitter wants to remind you is a United States government official, tweeted something today. I'm announcing that the Port of LA will begin operating around the clock 24/7 to make sure Americans can get the goods they need. My administration working around the clock to move more goods faster and strengthen the resiliency of our supply chains, yada, yada, yada. So Ann Lynn 208 is saying, I voted for you, and I have to ask, when are you going to do something about high gas prices and groceries? Can we convince Pelosi to just... And it goes on. So what happens when you combine mindless neolib NPC with the wild incompetence of Brandon? Let's go, Brandon. You get what you fucking deserve.
Yep.
Yep, and you guys know I've said it many times. I am an advocate of giving people what they ask for, because that oftentimes is the only way they will ever actually learn. So that we're living through that right now, and it's not a bad idea to stock up on food and stuff like that, especially for the winter. I've heard things that indicate this could be a rough winter, similar to the last one. So make sure you get your toilet paper.
Yep, get your toilet paper, get your food, get your water. Be ready, guys, because winter is coming.
Holly.
Guys, a backwards, quote-unquote, swastika is actually the indication of the location of a Buddhist temple. So perhaps it was a peace-loving Buddhist student, possibly Tibetan, that was just marking the location of where his space of worship was.
Oh.
I don't know, just saying.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's possible. And I've seen a shift recently too, because I looked on Google to validate that the swastika was indeed backwards. They're changing the definition of swastikas now because there have been so many fake race hoaxes. They're admitting that the swastika can go either way, because in some cases it's used for the Buddhism or other religious uses in the opposite manner. So they're like, well, it's swastikas, but sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's that way. Like they're almost trying to cover for these people who are getting it wrong every time by saying that, well, no, that's also a swastika, even though it's not the way the Nazis used it.
Yeah, I would love for some of these people who don't know the origins of the swastika and where it came from, go to like India or Tibet or Korea or places where there are Buddhist temples that have the original swastika, and watch the meltdowns ensue and think that temple is full of neo-Nazis.
Oh yeah. All right, we got Agent Carmichael up in here.
Oh yeah, just like me after 14 beers deep, I also tend to swing both ways, just like the swastika. What do you mean it goes both ways? What the hell is this?
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. Well,
Yep.
like I said, man, when they get there's so many fake swastikas, they got to start to cover for them. Like, no, that's real racism. Sometimes it goes that way. That's real racism. That's not a hoax. It's just real. There's a real white supremacist in this school. Yeah, no, there's not.
This Buddhist temple, Buddha having the swastika on his chest, a big statue of him. That temple is full of neo-Nazis and racists. Don't go there.
Hitler was here, but he wrote the history books, so he wrote himself out of the fact that he dominated China and Japan and Asia and set up all these temples to worship the Nazi gods and put swastikas everywhere. That's what it was. All right, we got a request in the chat for you to show the dog. Oh, there he is. We got the dog on the camera.
Here's my dog. For those of you wondering, this is my baby. So here you go.
He's roughing up a storm over there. Okay.
Yeah, well, somebody came to the door, so of course he has to protect me and do his job.
Oh, he was doing a good job. That's good. Okay. 14 beers deep. That was good. All right, speaking of Clown World, I mean, it just gets worse, guys. This is really bad. We're going to go on to the cultural aspect of Clown World now. We're looking at how the mutants are parasitizing all of our culture, all the good culture. You notice one thing about this, every time you hear a story about they're redoing Ghostbusters, or they're redoing, in this case, Superman, or they're redoing Lord of the Rings, some of our most beloved franchises, that were with us throughout our childhoods and whatnot, they can never create anything original on their own. Like new Captain America is gay too. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
They have to parasitize the successful white, culture, and then insert their mutant propaganda into it, because they are so uncreative. They could not possibly come up with something that's good enough to consume on its own right, by its own creative merit, to spread their ideology. And that would be totally fair game. Look, if you want to create a new series about a brand new superhero that is super gay and he just flies around and he kisses dudes and chicks all day long or whatever, I don't care. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Do it, but it's not going to get watched because that's stupid and it's boring. And, we all know you're making it just because you want to push the propaganda. But they also know that. They know they can't create anything worthy of being consumed. So we have to end up in a place like this where we are now, where DC Comics has now declared the new Superman, who is Clark Kent or Kal-El's son, for the nerds out there. He's bisexual. That's right. So the new Superman, the current Superman in the DC Comics, is coming out as bisexual.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So dumb.
According to the Hollywood Reporter, Dean Cain slams Superman coming out as bisexual. And Dean Cain was one of the Superman actors in the movie. So he's got a little bit of authority on the subject. It also happens that Dean Cain is a pretty hardcore conservative. I don't know if you guys are aware of Dean Cain, but he's a good follow on Twitter or social media. He's a level-headed guy, and he had some really interesting things to say about this. He really brought the hammer down on these mutants, because the mutants say things like, this is so brave to make Superman gay now. I mean, he's bisexual. That is so brave. And then guys like Dean Cain, who are, actual voices of reason, they're not mutant brains, they come out and say the obvious, which is that, no, it's not actually brave. This is 2021. It's brave if he's a cis white male. That's brave. It would have been brave if he came out as gay 20 years ago. That would have been brave. It would have. He goes so far as to say, it would have been brave if Superman was fighting the sources of all the mass migration that's happening into America, like forcing people out of their home countries and stuff. He's like, that would have been brave. I'm like, oh, damn, Dean Cain.
Okay.
He's going hard. Like, what if he went after the Taliban? He says, this is a quote from Dean Cain. They said they're talking about him having to fight climate change and the deportation of refugees, and he's dating a hacktivist. Why don't they have him fight the injustices that created the refugees whose deportation he's protesting? That would be brave. I'd read that. Or fighting for the rights of women to attend school and have the ability to work and live, and boys not to be raped by men under the new warm and fuzzy Taliban. That would be brave. So he went in hard, and these are absolutely 100% correct points. There are actual injustices happening. Like, what if Superman goes to North Korea, cleans up the North Korea situation? What if Superman solves some real injustices in the world? And this is a great indication of clown world, because it shows you how skewed the pathetic, soft, gooey, jelly pudding American brain really is that we think that the fact that there isn't enough representation of whatever our particular sexual orientation is in the media, that's a travesty. That's a human rights violation, right? Meanwhile, people are literally getting tortured and killed and skinned alive and starved to death, and having children are getting raped, women are getting raped all over the world. Women are getting their genitals chopped off. They're being told they can't reproduce. We're having Uyghurs in camps. They're having their organs harvested in China. Why doesn't Superman go fight those? That would be brave. That kind of stuff would actually be brave. But this is, they have to parasitize culture and declare that you believe that this is brave, when in reality, we all know it's not brave at all. It's actually quite stupid and mundane. It's unremarkable in every aspect. So, but this is the only way that they can participate in what normal humans call meritocracy. This is the only way they can actually get any credit for literally just to exist as a bisexual person. To them is worthy of getting credit. That's why they say this is brave. But in reality, the real world, this is not brave at all. But you know what? You are our local LGBT expert, so I will let you give us your thoughts on the subject. I'll take away my cis white hetero privilege and shut my mouth now.
It just seems like the gay community is really just trying to invade the culture, and they can't accept that there were already characters in the DC and the Marvel universe who had kind of gay-like tendencies. Like, I believe like Robin came out as gay at some point, but no, Robin's not good enough. Nobody gives a crap about Robin. People aren't dressing up. Kids aren't striving to be Robin from the Batman universe. So they want it to seep into mainstream culture, and a lot of kids, a lot of young people look up to Superman as one of their superheroes. And it just seems to me like they cannot just accept that like a lesser character might be gay or whatever, and they just want it to be a mainstream thing. It's like, no, like this is not something that needs to be mainstream. Like, who gives a crap if Superman is gay or bisexual? Nobody gives a crap. He's an alien, for crying out loud. Like, why are we giving a crap about this?
That's true. Yep. And you know, like I said, I am totally cool with them creating their own new thing from scratch about some gay dude just gaying it up around town all day. I don't know what kind of stuff you would do, but the fact that they have to
there's no creativity in this realm anymore.
Exactly, yeah. It's not creativity, and it's actually, I would go one step further. I would say this is cultural imperialism. They are invading. The one thing that they love to say that is terrible and that white people are terrible for doing, Columbus, you know, all that good stuff, Europeans, settlers, etc., colonialism. This is cultural imperialism, where they are, you use the right word, which I thought was great, invading. They're literally pulling up their boats to the shore and rushing onto shore to take over the cultural icons of Western society, which is stuff like Superman and stuff like The Lord of the Rings, which we're going to jump into right now, because guess what? You thought it stopped at Superman and Captain America and DC and Marvel? Oh, no. Nope, guys, they're coming for The Lord of the Rings. Now, I will say, you know, the last Lord of the Rings series was pretty awful. The Hobbit, it was terrible. The original 3 movies was definitely great. The books are fantastic. I haven't read them all. I did read a little bit of the Silmarillion, which is what the new series from Amazon will be based off of. From GameSpot.com, Lord of the Rings TV show actor says it will be multicultural, diverse, and feature strong female characters, with a subtitle that says, "Suddenly there were black hobbits."
Oh my god, really?
Yep, no, and they try to like make a canon reference to the lore of Lord of the Rings by saying, "I'm a Harfoot," because J.R.R. Tolkien, who was from Birmingham, said that Harfoots were a variety of other people from different backgrounds. So there are black and Asian and brown and even Maori hobbits. Can you imagine a bunch of hobbits doing like a haka dance? 3 foot tall hobbits with hairy feet doing a haka.
Oh my god.
That's hilarious.
This is so bad. This is so bad. Like, I already am gonna tell you that this series is gonna be bad before it even starts.
Yeah, and guess what? They're throwing a lot of money at this. They're throwing $465 million at season 1. So this is a new series that's going to be occurring on Amazon. And they say one thing in here that I think is really important. They say it's going to take at least 10 years to tell the story, because it's based on the Silmarillion, which is almost like a cheat sheet of what happens next in the world for the second and third ages, just nerdy lore stuff. So they're going to say basically it's going to be a long-running series, but the fact that it's long-running is dependent on the viewers. So the question is whether you will give them your money by watching it. And they say that, quote, "it is really building infrastructure of what will sustain the whole series. As for how many people will need to watch Lord of the Rings, a lot. A giant global audience needs to show up, as it is at appointment television, and we are pretty confident that will happen." So they need you to watch it because they're spending so much money on it, but they're taking this, like, you know, kind of leap of faith in the fact that they're just inserting all of this multiculturalism and, you know, wokeism and gender garbage into it, hoping that you will watch. And you know, honestly, I hope that people don't watch and that it flops, and then they learn their lesson. Again,
yeah, I'm definitely not gonna watch.
I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and I think the Silmarillion is probably the most interesting out of all the books, because it covers a lot bigger of a time scale, and it covers a lot really of the cooler, deeper lore of a lot of stuff, like, you know, how Sauron became Sauron and all that kind of stuff. And I would love to watch this, but I'm not going to watch this, even though I also do have Amazon Prime. I'm not going to give them my viewership on this for that very reason. So, yeah, this is, it's coming for everything. Every little, you know, book, story, whatever it is that you love, cultural icon from your childhood, it's going to be gay eventually.
Yeah. Well, and what gets me about this, it says that it features strong female characters. Did they not see the third movie when what's her Erwin or whatever
Oh, yeah.
killed what, like, and she's and like he's like, oh, the bad guy's like, I forget his name, I forget their names so much, but he's like, no,
Lich
no
King.
man, yeah, no man is able to kill me, and she takes off her helmet. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, no man, and stabs him in the face.
I mean,
Did
that
they forget all about that?
that was cringy back then, because like, oh, okay, oh yeah, oh, you're a woman, oh, feminism stuff's getting in there. But even now looking back at that, it's like, was that not enough? But yeah, you're right. The original series had so many strong female characters. I think literally not to get too nerdy on you guys, but literally the strongest character, like in terms of magical power or whatever, was that blonde elvish lady who was, like sending telepathic messages to Aragorn and all that stuff. She was the strongest character in the whole series.
Yep. But not strong enough because she's being held down by her male counterparts.
Yeah.
There's more men than there are women in the cast, so they're being held down, even though that's just kind of how it is. I mean, it's nonfiction, it's fantasy, people. Like, come on.
No, we need more black hobbits up in there. Caitlin. Yep, Caitlin likes the Silmarillion too. Okay. The Bible of the LTR universe, exactly. And the clowns will have no. Yeah, that's the real travesty, is that they're going to spend $465 million on bringing the Silmarillion to life in this series, and it's going to be like Tolkien fans, legit Tolkien fans, have probably waited years and years and years for this, like a big budget interpretation, a visual interpretation of the Silmarillion, and now it gets tainted by all this garbage. It's like, it's such a huge bummer. That's it's really such an unfortunate turn of events.
Yeah, Holly's in agreement with me. She said Tolkien already had strong female characters. It's true, he did. Like, there are already strong female characters in there. Like, you don't need any. Like, I agree, like, there need to be female characters, but to be like, that's going to be the most main focus of the series. It just sounds like a big, like, feminazi just diatribe of them trying to implant all this garbage in people's minds.
And the other thing about this, outside, let's take a one step zoom out a little bit further about the fact that it's not just the fact that they're putting gay in these stories and the thing. It's just the quality of the stories that we're telling now is decreasing, because the stories. It's not about the stories themselves anymore. It's about who's in the story. There's a black guy in the story? Is there a black midget in the story? Is there a black disabled midget in the story? Like, it's not a good story unless it's a black disabled midget.
Is there a black disabled trans midget in the story?
Yeah, it's not a good story unless there's that in there. It's like, no, that's not what storytelling is. Like, we're destroying the very fabric of what storytelling and cultural translation through time is, because stories like this is how you transmit culture and tradition. That's the same reason why they have to destroy religion, because that's how you transmit culture and tradition. So it's almost like it's a Trojan horse in a way, where they're not explicitly coming out and saying we're trying to just destroy white culture and the Western culture, but that's exactly what they're doing. They're destroying storytelling and all these really good stories at the same time. It's really sad.
There's like no original thought anymore in Hollywood or in storytelling. Like, people don't have original stories anymore. Pretty much every movie and TV show you see nowadays it was somebody else's writing, and they just adapted it to be a screenplay or a television series. There's never really an original thought anymore. Think
about this. They had $465 million to throw around, and they couldn't get like an original writer to come with a new series or on something, or maybe just cut it in half, 200 mil on a brand new series, because you don't want to invest in much in a franchise that's not as established. But dude, why can't they create anything original anymore? They cannot because they are not creative anymore. Let's go to stereo. We got Agent Carmichael here.
So funny enough, I mean, I agree with you what you're saying. Like, when they're trying to like change the old stuff to make it new, whether it's to make it all female or gay or whatever, it doesn't work. But it doesn't mean you can't have a gay showrunner, not showrunner, like person who stars in it. Like, there was actually this show, like, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. It was a spin-off of Doctor Who called Torchwood. It was a BBC show. Fantastic show. The lead, Captain Jack Harkness, was gay in the series, and it was original. It wasn't like a remake of anything. He was wrote into the script, and he played it beautifully. So when they make something original to the character, and he wasn't like flamboyant or anything. That was just one of his traits. Like he was like he kicked ass, kicking aliens' ass, and saving the world, and he just happened to have a boyfriend. So they don't have to remake everything; they can make original stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. It's like come up with something original. Don't take a long tested, amazing, American icon or whatever it may be of series that or a movie or a book or something that people love and change it to fit the agenda, to fit the gay agenda or the feminist agenda, whatever it is. Like if you want a feminist or a gay movie or gay character, make up your own. Like in a world where we live in, where we have so many ideas in our head, and why aren't there people coming out with their own original ideas anymore?
Yeah, that's it's an important question for our time that we need to address. He's got a follow-up here.
Lord of the Rings. I think you mean Lord of the Cock Rings. That'll be the remake.
Hell yeah.
Eventually, we'll probably get to that. Yeah. Let's see here. Oops, I clicked on the wrong window here. Paul.
The logical answer to this Lord of the Rings nonsense is a trans hobbit. It'll be LeBron James, 6 foot fucking 8, whatever the fuck he is. I'm a hobbit.
Yeah, you can't height discriminate against hobbits, so you got to have a 6 foot tall hobbit. That's great.
Hell yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. What if they? Oh, so I mean that's a whole another line. If they get into like the fictional creation is transphobic or racist or ableist or whatever. Like, I mean that's a line that they are not afraid to cross either. So don't be surprised if you see that. Osis.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe they talked to Kevin Smith when Randall gave the diatribe about how gay hobbits were in Clerks 2, talking about Samwise shooting a fat brick in Frodo's mouth. This is the only funny part of that fucking movie. And fuck Lord of the Rings.
Oh, man.
Love
Okay.
you, Mike.
All right. Let's, I think that's enough. Lord of the Rings. An orc that believes he's a hobbit. Trans species. There you go. See, now Holly's being more creative than all these Amazon writers right there. Just within 5 minutes of hanging out on our stream. That is creativity right there.
Yep.
Osis says everybody knows the orcs are the black people. That's what the leftists believe. I think they actually did make that reference.
Yeah, I remember that there was articles written about how Lord of the Rings is racist because there's not any black people and the only black people are the orcs. It's like really? They're an entirely different species. How are you just seeing there's like only seeing black people when I see orcs? It's crazy.
So good. They're so racist. They just can't even hide it sometimes. The projection is real. And this is Clown World, folks. Clown World. The title of the stream indicates we are living in a clown world, and everything you're seeing it's either fake or it's completely manufactured, twisted to fit some mutated version of reality. That's what we mean by Clown World here. We're about halfway through the show, so if you like what you're hearing, you can find us on a podcast. We are on all podcast platforms: Stitcher, Google, and iTunes. Check us out there if you want to listen to us while you're in the gym, getting your chat immunity, as I will always advocate for. We have a Telegram you can join if you want to figure out when we're going live, chat with some of our regular viewers. The Telegram link is in the YouTube description, and otherwise you can find us right here on YouTube every week, 7 p.m. Pacific. YouTube.com/weekly narrative, and that is your halftime shill. And hit the like button. Yeah, thank you, Holly. Hit the like button if you guys haven't already. Let's get some engagement up on this. Okay. Speaking of Clown World, what's up next, Tandy? Oh yeah, let's talk about culture and movies. There was a new movie that just came out. It was called Fauci.
God.
Yes, because this is what they create when they try to create something new. And let's take a look at the ratings for Fauci, this documentary about Fauci over on RottenTomatoes.com. So Rotten Tomatoes, the way this works, for those who don't know, is critics, quotations, critics, will review movies or whatever, and they will leave they separate the ratings of the critics and the ratings of the audience. Now, we're going to give you two examples of two recent cultural creations that just came out, one of them being Fauci, and the next one being Dave Chappelle's latest special, The Closer, which also just recently came out a couple days ago, I believe. And we're going to compare the scores versus the public sentiment on these particular movies. So first up, we got Fauci, rated PG-13. Came out in 2021, an hour and 45-minute long documentary on Fauci. Got a 91% from the critics. Okay, so the tomato meter, 91%. Audience score, 2%. I have never seen a movie score this low. And before anybody says it, yes, of course, there's probably some form of brigading on this rating system, but still 2%. Even you would think that if half the country supposedly loves Fauci, loves Biden, loves taking vaccines every day, they would get on here and they would be like, oh my God, I love this Fauci movie so much. And they would give it 5 stars. Where are they at? Where are they? Clearly, they either don't exist or the movie was so not good that they didn't feel compelled to come here and rate the movie. But at the end of the day, look at the disparity between what the critics are telling you that you're supposed to like and what the audience actually likes. Okay, now, of course, Fauci is painting Fauci in a great light. Totally good guy. He's saved millions of lives, public servant, just so selfless with his $450,000 public salary, telling us what to do and switching up the narrative every other week. Such a great guy, right? This is what they want you to believe. So, of course, they're going to rate the movie at a high percentage. Now, let's contrast that with the Dave Chappelle special that just came out. For those of you who didn't watch it, it's laced from beginning to end with all sorts of LGBT references, feminism references, all of the cultural high points or low points, which I would argue are actually low points, that are in the narrative right now. He hits on all of those quite hard and not in a positive way for the LGBT community. I mean, he says straight up that he's a transphobe multiple times in the special. He says straight up that gender is a real thing. It's binary. He says straight up that he's a feminist, but he kind of twists the definition of feminism to say, like, you're so stupid you don't realize that feminism really just applies to everybody. So look at the scores on this one. 43% from the critics, 96% from the audience, and that's with over 2,500 ratings on the audience score for the Rotten Tomatoes. So clearly we can see just from these two particular. Now, Dave Chappelle is an example of somebody who is actually being genuinely creative in this world. And what do the critics, let's just call them the deep state, because it's really all just an extension of this, everlasting political class that kind of tells us all what to think and believe. The deep state says that we should hate Dave Chappelle and love Fauci. And yet, in reality, we hate Fauci and we loved Dave Chappelle's new special. Let me scroll down here. Let's see some of the ratings from the critics, just to see what kind of things they're saying on here. He says, Roger Moore, not the Roger Moore, but some guy named Roger Moore says, quote, he's rich and famous. He reminds us, huge, Clifford big. He should start acting like it. Some other woman says, Chappelle's most incendiary, troubling, and unapologetic one yet. Somebody else says, the comedian's new Netflix special, The Closer, is a panicked defense of controversial past jokes. The humor doesn't land, neither does the justification. So see,
well, it landed with me. I laughed out loud several times at his jokes.
So did I. I just got done watching it about right before the stream because I knew I was going to talk about it and I wanted to actually see the content. And so did 96% of the audience. But this guy, again, we all know this guy, Kevin, he's probably a transgender, non-binary, vapogender, whatever. He's sucking down the deep state cultural Kool-Aid. So this isn't a genuine opinion. He's just trying to enforce the cultural bumpers like you would enforce a law. He's telling you in kind of an implicit way, like, hey, you're not supposed to like this. You're not supposed to like people being creative, talking about things in a way that we can't easily compute. Like, what did he mean by that? Is he saying something bad about LGBT? He's saying something good? I can't tell, because they're so used to having, 1 to 2 functional brain cells that they just clap whenever they hear unapologetic agreement with every single thing you say. That's good. But if it's not complete agreement with everything that you say regarding LGBT, then that's a bad thing. And this is kind of how, low IQ brains like Kevin interpret real, true creativity, which is probably why there is no creativity on their side, because they need to signal absolute compliance with a particular narrative. They need to signal absolute agreement with particular ideologies, because anything short of absolute agreement or compliance with the policy, ideology, it represents a threat. It actually represents, in their words, violence against them, actual violence. Because that's right, words are violence to them. Remember, don't forget that.
Yeah, saying that, we're all born from our mother's bodies is transphobic, even though it's biologically true. And that's pretty much, I feel like that's what they were really kind of mad about, is that he was saying, like, gender is binary. You can't just claim that you're a woman one day and you're not going to be able to have a child, because that's kind of like one of the categories of being a woman, is that you have a womb that can hold life and birth life. Even if you don't have a uterus, you still have the chromosomes to it's say, because like I've had women argue with me about this. They're like, well, what if I get a hysterectomy? Am I no longer a woman? I'm like, no, you're still biologically a woman, man. Even if you get a hysterectomy. Like, you're crazy.
Let's see, somebody had a good point in chat here. Oh yeah, Holly noticed exactly what I noticed. There were 2 like very protesty looking obese women in the audience. And she says, did you notice the ladies front and center in the audience actively not laughing? Yes. As soon as he started saying things like every one of us is born from a woman, then they definitely immediately cut off all kind of laughter. We definitely noticed that one as well. Perhaps the disparity in the ratings is Fauci's white supremacy. It could be. Yeah, that's a valid point there. Potentially some white supremacy involved in these. I mean, also, we know that only white people have access to the internet, right? Because black people are too dumb to access the internet, according to Joe Biden. So maybe they don't know how to rate movies on Rotten Tomatoes. That could also be a possibility.
That's definitely a possibility.
Steve in the house with a $5 super chat. He's got a new username though, VFR1200. Yeah. He says, "Rip Deontay Big Dosser Wilder. You will be missed." Deontay Wilder. Okay, here we go. I gotta Google it now.
Yep, I'm gonna Google it now too.
It's not the boxer guy. That's a different Wilder.
Yeah, he is. It's a Deontay. Yeah, mine came up with the boxer.
He ain't dead.
Yeah, he ain't dead. But thank you for the $5 super chat.
Every time. Thank you for that, Steve, with the Afro avatar as usual. Black people can't even find the DMV. Exactly. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, let's see what's going on over here in stereo. Kiss it.
Jeremy Delaney, I have a brilliant idea for a movie. No, this is brilliant, right? And this will play right into the LGBTQ, whatever the hell they're called, the alphabet mafia, right?
Yep. Yes.
Here's the idea, right? You get all various people, a group of various people under the alphabet mafia, right?
Alphabet mafia.
You send them to an island, and the whole point is, the film, they basically purity spiral each other to the point where there is only one remaining.
Oh.
Think of it like a LGBTQ mafia edition of Battle Royale.
Oh, I like that. That's what I was going to say. It sounds like Battle Royale.
Like that.
I actually do like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. So it's like a Battle Royale, but again, instead of physical danger of giving everyone a weapon to survive with, they have to destroy each other psychologically through ideological compliance. Oh, very interesting. I like that. No, that's pretty good. Now that is actually somewhat creative. Thank you for that, Kizza. Let's go to Osis.
When fucking Frito wakes up from his little coma or whatever, and the little hobbits are jumping up and down on his bed, and Sam leans in the doorway and gives him that very fucking gay look.
Say what you will about Jesus, but leave the rings out of this. I'm gonna kick your ass back to the Shire. You know what I'm talking about.
That look was so gay, I thought Sam was going to tell the little hobbits to take a walk so he could saunter over to Frodo and suck his fucking cock. Academy Award-worthy ending.
Hey, you faggot. They're not gay. They're hobbits.
And right after the Sam Frodo suck fest, right before the credits roll,
man.
Sam fucking flat out bricks in Frodo's mouth.
That is from, the Clerks 2, was it? I think that was what you said. Oh, so thank you for that
Clerks too.
very old cultural reference right there from the classic Kevin Smith movie there. So appreciate that. Kiz has got another one here.
Actually, Jeremy Delaney, speaking of good old Dave Chappelle, I've got
Yes.
a great idea for 2021. Or should I say 2022, when he does his next special. He should do the sexual draft. Now, for those of you who are unaware, many years ago on the Dave Chappelle show, he did what was known as the racial draft, where different racial groups picked somebody or a group and classified them as part of their racial group. So what if we did the same to sexual groups? So let's say I, as a representative of Super Straight, now pick Delaney, and now she is now Super Straight. She's no longer super lesbian. How do you think that would sell to the alphabet mafia? Just a thought.
Interesting idea. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to play with that one in my head a little bit. I got to see the original Chappelle racial draft one. I don't remember that one.
Right? I don't remember that one either.
Okay, Paul.
I think I mentioned this earlier in the Telegram, 10 a.m. today. I think it bears repeating. The press, and that could be the corporate news media press, or it can be this bullshit. Rotten Tomatoes, what is it? Popular culture press. They are the B cells, the memory cells of the immune system of the state. They are the neighborhood watch. They're like, this is bad. This is wrong thing. You need, these are threatened. The T cells are the, it's the IRS who can take your money. It's the police who can kill you, and the FBI who can kill you. And it's your neighbors, your friends. Weaponized, just NPC leftists. They are also part of the immune system of the state. Like, oh, Dave Chappelle's bad. I've been told this, and I will repeat it to everyone.
Exactly. And he talked about that actual phenomena in this show, because obviously a lot of his show was talking about the backlash he got from the last show, where he talked about a lot of transgender stuff. And he said, basically, you know what? Look, we get it that you aren't watching my specials. You're hearing something from, in this case, the deep state media or whatever it is, or you're seeing something on Twitter, and then you're just repeating it. You're not actually consuming anything. You're not thinking about things. You're not having any independent thought on anything. You're just being told what to say, and you go and repeat it exactly like, okay, so I'm not a biological major or anything, but, B cells get programmed to produce certain reactions to particular pathogens in the body. That's all they do. There's like, hey, you go fight this. Whenever you hear the word transphobia, you just go attack whatever it is that's it's targeting that word, right? So that's it. That's all they do. It's a good analogy, and it makes you wonder about how the fact that what if human society in general is just kind of two incompatible giant organisms that are in the process of splitting, like two giant complex cells that we're just trying to rip apart. Like, it eventually will come apart and will be two independent systems. But right now we've got like our immune system attacking our own body, and that's an analogy to humans attacking other humans within our own society for no good reason other than the fact that they're misprogrammed. They're programmed incorrectly to do so. So yeah, I think that works.
I appreciated Dave Chappelle's last special, and when he was talking about the LGBT community in a car, and he was basically saying what kind of a lot of gays and lesbians are kind of feeling about the trans community. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing here? We are here because we are sexually different, and then you are an entirely different beast. And he just was saying kind of what everybody was thinking, and he got called a transphobe for it. And it's like, he's not, I'm pretty sure he's not transphobic. He's a comedian. But then again, comedians just making jokes about anything that goes against a certain minority group is automatically some kind of phobic or some kind of ism. And it's terrible. Like, comedy is dying, but love Dave Chappelle because he's one of the few comedians that is actually bold enough to say what everybody's thinking.
Yes, the body politic is attacking itself. That's well put. But yeah, you're right, Delaney. It's and one thing that you said is it's about labeling someone as transphobic. It's much worse than that. I think calling people transphobic, it might be a self-defense mechanism for them to generate some kind of meaning in their life. Because in reality, there are no transphobes out there. There's like 3, and you never will interact with a single one of them ever in your entire life. But the reality is much worse than people being transphobic, because to them, well, the reality is nobody actually cares about them at all, one way or the other. And that's much worse than somebody actually actively hating you. Because if somebody actually actively hates you, you get that attention. You can use that to signal to your friends and your community. Say, hey, help me, guys. Look, let's band together. Look at my people, my community. That's where the language of my community and my people come from. Because they have to act as a collective against a particular non-existent attacker. But it gives them a sense of meaning when in reality nobody cares about them at all, one way or the other. And that's always my reaction whenever somebody says I'm transphobic. I say, oh, you think I'm homophobic? Oh. No, I'm much worse than homophobic, friend. I don't care about you at all. You don't even cross my...
is worse than hate.
Exactly, indifference. Nobody wants to be felt indifferent towards, because that means you're not even a factor in somebody else's universe. And that's what reality is. And I think they call people transphobic largely to give themselves some kind of meaning, when it's obvious that, guys like Dave Chappelle, he's not transphobic. In the sense that word is even actually real, which arguably it isn't in the first place. So,
yeah, it's to be phobic is to be afraid. I don't think he's afraid of trans people. I think he's just a comedian that is speaking some truths into the world and wants people to laugh at these things. The best way to get through to people is through laughter, through comedy, through art, and he's a master at it, and that's why they want to label him as that, because if they label him as a transphobe and all those trans allies out there are going to be like, well, we're not going to watch him if he's a transphobe. It's like, well, all the people that aren't going to watch him, there's going to be a million more people that will watch him, because he actually speaks truth into the universe that needs to be said.
And this Dave Chappelle thing, which, let me pull up this article that I was going to talk about anyway, since we're still on the same topic. Netflix associates, employees, are staging mass walkouts over the special being on Netflix now. Yeah. So from the LA Times, trans Netflix employees will stage walkout to protest controversial Chappelle special. And this is after trans employees of Netflix stormed into board meeting rooms and demanded that his special be taken off. So this is their second round of protests against Dave Chappelle's particular special and actions therein. But what was I going to say about this? This is, let me just read a couple lines from this article. We'll see if it won't come back to me. Transgender Netflix employees and coworkers will stage a walkout next week protesting the streaming giant's decision to release Dave Chappelle's latest comedy special. Multiple Netflix staffers have confirmed to the LA Times. On October 20th, members of the Netflix employee resource group Trans Star and their allies will take a day of rest prompted by their concerns about Chappelle's The Closer, which included several transphobic remarks. Quote, I encourage all members of Trans Star and allies not to work for Netflix that day. As we've discussed through Slack, email, and text and everything in between, our leadership has shown us they do not uphold the values for which we are held. A Netflix employee posted on Monday in a public Slack channel comprising more than 800 staffers representing, quote, gender minorities of all sorts and their allies. In the message reviewed by the Times. Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, what is happening here? But
I think if Netflix was smart, they would just get rid of all those people that walked out and hire more people.
That's the funny part about all this baloney about diversity hiring and this retard, stuff that's going on, is that the end result of that is you have a less effective organization. You have a less profitable, less efficient organization, because this kind of stuff is now a day-to-day thing for you. If you say one wrong thing, I mean, think about how much content Netflix has to produce and put up on its platform. There's probably hundreds of different things that they could look at and point and say, oh, that's transphobic. Every time something like that happens, they got to the employees got to walk out. I mean, these people get 30, 40, 50 days of paid vacation a year just because they have to walk out from being offended by the content their employee puts out. I mean, what is going on here? This is an absolute clown world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. We got a stereo come in. Let's hop over to that real quick. Oh, two from Holly here.
Well, as the great Bill Hicks once said, humans are just
Yes.
viruses with shoes.
Bill Hicks is still to this day my favorite comedian of all time. I
Yeah,
can't
he's a good one.
imagine what he would say if he was alive today, man. He would be. I mean, they had to kill him, right? The FBI killed Bill Hicks because he would have prevented this entire calamity from happening just through his comedy alone, right? Do we agree on that? I think that's accurate. Holly's got another one here.
The most interesting part about this whole Dave Chappelle special to me is he, in that special, basically told the community that he doesn't give two shits about what they say, what they think about him, just like you're saying, Jeremy, and then daring them to try and cancel him, and basically telling them this is what you're going to do, and lo and behold, this is exactly what the community is doing. The ending of that special is incredibly profound because of how his friend ended up getting canceled and then dying from that. And that's why he's attacking this community. And they're doing the exact thing that he told them that they were going to frickin' do to him.
Yep.
I don't know. It's crazy.
That's what I was
magician.
going to say. That's what I was going to say. You can the fascism is clearly evident in examples like this right here, because to avoid the harm of hearing Dave Chappelle's transphobic jokes, that are so harmful, like what do you have to do to avoid hearing these super harmful, violent jokes that Dave Chappelle is telling? You would just have to not watch the special. Just don't watch it. It's 100% completely optional for you or anyone else to hear it. Okay, I wouldn't have heard it if I didn't go and voluntarily watch it. And this is where the authoritarian tendencies of the left become evident, because they are aware that viewing his content is entirely optional, but they are acting as if everybody on the planet is just forced to consume Dave Chappelle's content and hear these harmful jokes. But we all know that's not the case. They're acting as if there's some kind of transgression happening to them. Not that it's a voluntary choice to watch it. They're acting like something is happening to them in order that they can impose further control on society and you and me and Dave Chappelle, and cancel Dave Chappelle, and cancel, whatever other successful male happens to say the wrong thing. And that is where the inherent authoritarian fascistic tendencies of the left comes through, because there is no transgression happening here. Interacting with Dave Chappelle is 100% completely optional. It's not being forced on anybody, and yet they have to go and attack, Chappelle as if they're doing it in self-defense, because they had no choice. They had to consume his content, which is not true.
Yeah, everybody has a choice. There's no gun to your head saying watch this or else you're gonna die. You make the active choice. If you know you don't like Dave Chappelle's comedy, you don't have to consume it. Like, I personally don't think Kevin Hart is funny, but do I go out of my way and watch all the Kevin Hart specials just so I can not laugh? No, I don't. I don't watch any of his comedy because I don't think he's all that funny. There's a movie with him in it. I kind of like, I'll watch it, but I don't usually laugh at his jokes, but I don't go out of my way just to make myself angry and watch Kevin Hart and not laugh. These people are acting like there is like some kind of force behind them watching it. It's like, if you don't want to watch, don't watch. There's no invisible hand forcing you to watch anything that you don't want to. Yeah,
but here's the thing, and it's the same exact way they justify their health lockdowns, the mandates. That's the same way they're going to justify the controls they're going to put in place for climate change. It's that we can't trust you, Delaney, to protect yourself from this kind of stuff. So we have to go to the source and eliminate the option of you just brushing by it. Just a little breeze of Dave Chappelle happens to brush across your skin one day. We can't have that. We need to make sure that is not possible. We need to eliminate the possibility of you harming yourself by going out into public without a vaccination. We need to eliminate the possibility of climate change doing harm to your community or your land by forcing you to not consume, so that we can prevent climate change from ever happening in the first place. It's all in the name. Eventually, when you boil it down to the bare minimum, the condensate, the end result is to protect others, because we can't trust people to protect themselves from harmful content that just happens to be floating around out there in the internet. And that's exactly what their rebuttal to me would be. If I were debating a leftist right now and I gave that argument, I said, well, interacting with Chappelle is completely voluntary, they would say, well, people are going to consume it and they're going to get the wrong ideas and they're going to become transphobic. See, that is the exact argument that they would use, and it's because they don't trust you to consume content and then come out, not being brainwashed by the invisible boogeyman of Dave Chappelle. So it's all just the same playbook over and over and over again for everything they do. And like the Triple M guy in chat says, attention seeking is in the DNA of the alphabet people. That is correct, because the worst thing for them is to not have any attention. That's why indifference to them is worse than hatred. So if you guys really want to make an LGBT spaghetti person mad, just say you don't care about them one way or the other. Oh, man. That's way worse than telling them you're transphobic or homophobic.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's see. We got let's jump to we got Holly and Osis in the stereo, and then we'll jump to our next segment of the day, which is the very strange Aspirin coincidence that's happening in the media right now about aspirin is all of a sudden a bad thing. I don't know. We'll find out why after this.
See, I don't know. I disagree, Jeremy, because I think the fascism is coming not from the attacks to them from Chappelle. It's they don't want anybody else to see it and get ideas that maybe what he's saying might actually be true, and that damages their narrative.
Absolutely.
Jinx, yummy a Coke. Yep, well said. Great minds think alike on that one. Osis.
Kevin Hart, there's the perfect Black Hobbit.
Right?
There you go. Osis tying together the story segments of the night. I love it. Yeah, no, he would make a great Hobbit. He's very short.
I'm taller than him, and that's really sad.
A lot of stars are a lot shorter than you think they are. It's really it's kind of disappointing. Like Tom Cruise is like 5'8" or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one.
He's even shorter than that. I think he's like 5'6" or something like that. A lot of the time, what they do with the short men, and they're partnering with the tall female, they'll have the men stand on apple boxes. So that's where the term apple box comes from in the movie industry.
They had to get a stunt double in for Gimli in the original Lord of the Rings because he was like 6'4" or whatever, that actor. And the scenes where he was actually in the scene, most of the scenes was like a midget stand-in. When you didn't see his face, it was a midget stand-in. And the scenes where he was in, he was on his knees, standing next to the hobbits. So fun Lord of the Rings fact for you there. Okay, let's go. Let's go to. Stereos are coming in now, so I got to get these stereos. Let's go, Kizza.
Sorry, I'm back. I thought of another great idea.
Welcome back.
Regarding Dave Chappelle. Firstly of all, what Dave Chappelle should do at the start of on this next special is right at the beginning. There's a warning, which he says, anyone who is offended by his contact and tried to silence him, you are a dirty KKK-loving white supremacist. Okay?
He's black, so that would work.
If you guys remember another of Dave Chappelle's classics, the NIGGAR show, he should do a new one called the CRACKA, it's the Cracker Family. And instead, it's a black family who BLM would call a bunch of Uncle Toms being honourable members of society, or reading Thomas Sowell books, and going about their day.
I like it.
How does that sound to both of you two?
That sounds like a good idea.
I'm ready to spend $465 million on a series based on that premise right there. I like it. A black family that reads Thomas Sowell. We need some more of that in our culture.
Yep.
Okay, Osis.
I don't remember if I told you guys this or not. I know I told you I went to the Giants game, but Tom Cruise was at the Giants game, and he looks fucking terrible. He looks like Norm Macdonald right before he died. He's got these chubby chipmunk cheeks, like he's got some kind of cancer treatment going on or something.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Look it up. He was at the Giants game on Saturday, and they had him on TV. They featured him on the Jumbotron, and he looks really bad.
Uh-oh. He's got some Xenu, intergalactic rays hitting him or something from the Scientology.
Yeah, I guess the Scientology vitamins aren't working for him anymore.
Yeah, that's too bad. I hate to hear it because I actually do like Tom Cruise quite a bit. I think he's a good guy and a great actor. Let's see. Holly says the PC culture began in the early 90s. The self-esteem movement, making sure your kids are always happy. Helicopter parenting, this is the result. Yes, that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
There's a few other variables in there, but those are the big ones for sure. Let's see here. Gloria Miller says, "Hey lesbians, what's up, Gloria? Welcome back.
Hi.
Glad to see you." JC Stack says, "In the words of Barry Soetoro, we are dumb. We are too dumb to govern our own lives. We need an all-powerful Oz to keep us safe from ourselves." Absolutely 100% true. I would agree with that. And that's kind of the mentality that these people take. We got to be protected. Well, let's see. Tommy Boy says, "What generation would both of you or chat would say is the most to blame for all of this canceled BS? Boomers, millennials, or Gen Z?" I think Holly was a direct answer to that question. And I would agree with her answer in that, the people who are raising kids in the mid to late 80s and through the 90s, that's the problem with where we are right now. Because the people that are, like my age, they're terrible because they had terrible parents. And, not 100% blaming all the parents. I know some parents out there are going to be like, "Oh, don't blame me." Yeah, well, you're the biggest variable in the equation. But that's kind of where we're at right now, which is why there's a time delay that I talk about with, people ask, when are we going to fix society or when's it going to get better? Well, you got to take into account the generational gap. It takes a whole generation for one new iteration of changes to come to fruition. And we're, the result of the terrible parenting is going to create kids. How do you think those kids are going to turn out? We're still on a downward trend as far as I'm concerned in the state of society and in general. What has been your biggest challenge as a lesbian couple? It's the distance. Having a long distance relationship has been the absolute worst. I'm in Texas. She's in California. It's hard to really.
Distance is tough for us lesbians. Yeah, that's really it.
For those of you wondering why I'm answering that strange question, it's because Gloria Miller likes to ask us lesbian questions in the YouTube chat. Okay. Aspirin. Has anybody taken aspirin lately? I recently found out that acetaminophen is not good for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that whole thing about the whole bastardization of aspirin has been like on and off for since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember they would recommend that men take baby aspirin in the morning to help prevent heart attacks and help prevent heart disease. And now all of a sudden taking aspirin in the morning when you wake up is a bad thing. So the whole bastardization of aspirin has been going on for a long time, just like with coffee and eggs and everything else.
Yep. Yeah, it's a flip-flop back and forth. This kind of dance that science does. When new data comes out, we revise our stances on particular things because that's how science works. So first of all, I want to say we're talking about the fact that aspirin has recently, the general recommendation behind aspirin usage has changed. And this coincides coincidentally, okay, a little redundant, but you know what I'm saying, with the rise of some brand new information that's coming out regarding studies showing the effectiveness of aspirin treating and preventing COVID. That's right, preventing COVID. So first of all, let's talk about what the recommendation is. Let's go to the U.S. Preventative Service Task Force, which is the actual source that all of these media outlets are talking about now. And it's not just something that we found on Twitter. This is something that is... The strange thing about this is the level of coverage that it's getting. This is all over Washington Post, New York Times. It was a trending story on Twitter. Why? because the recommendation for using aspirin when you're 40 or between 40 and 59 has changed slightly. Why is that noteworthy? It's really not noteworthy. It's not newsworthy enough to be news, but I think, and my theory is, and we can work through this theory as we go, that this is counter narrative to the good data that we're seeing come out of places like Israel and studies that show that aspirin is highly effective at treating and preventing COVID. So we have a recommendation here from this U.S. Preventative Services Task Force, which is where these recommendations are published. You can come here and you can look up recommendations for anything, you know, STD testing, particular supplements, the use of aspirin. In this particular case, we're talking specifically about the use of aspirin to prevent cardiovascular disease and colorectal cancer. So this is, and you can see a timeline here of where they started coming out with recommendations. You can see the 2013 recommendations all the way up through the recommendations that they just posted yesterday, which is basically this. The U.S. Preventative Task Force seeks comment on a draft recommendation statement, draft evidence review, and draft modeling report on aspirin use to prevent cardiovascular disease. People 40 to 59 should decide with their clinician whether to start taking aspirin. Shocking, brand new, groundbreaking. Oh, decide with your doctor. Oh.
Wow.
That's not
So
newsworthy.
groundbreaking.
It's not newsworthy at all. And then they say people 60 and older should not start taking aspirin. And the longer, more complex version of this, the non-summarized version, is that if you are at risk and you're over 60, you can continue taking aspirin, but you should not start taking aspirin unless you are at risk for a cardiovascular event. So is this, the first question I have in this giant puzzle we're going to try to put together right now is this newsworthy?
Nope.
I don't think so either. So why is this on every media outlet? And the media outlets don't really ever take into account remember, the only things that matter in today's world, clown world, is the headlines, right? And what do the headlines say? They say things like, well, let me just do a quick search on aspirin, and we'll go through some of the headlines real quick. Because I guarantee you they're not going to have any of the nuance of that recommendation inside of it. So aspirin, just aspirin, going to the news tab in Google. And let's see what we got here. So aspirin used to prevent first heart attack or stroke should be curtailed, from the New York Times. CNN says U.S. task force proposes adults 60 and older should not start taking daily aspirin to prevent heart disease or stroke. Baby aspirin no longer recommended to prevent first heart attack in older adults. USA Today. The Hill. Aspirin should not be recommended to most adults for heart attack prevention. AP. Advice shifting on aspirin use for preventing heart attacks. You see, you get what I'm saying here? Like they're not saying, well, new advice says ask your doctor if you should take aspirin. No, it's advice is shifting, should not be recommended, no longer recommended, should not start taking aspirin, should be curtailed. Do you hear the language? Do you see the language that they're using here in all that?
They just omit the actual the announcement saying that if you're 60 or older, you should, like, it's not recommended. Like they completely glance over that. It's just a news grabbing headline because people are always thirsty for ways to change their lifestyle, and these media organizations are terrible.
So knowing that is, number one, not really newsworthy at all, but it's all over in the news, and let's just pull up let's throw another variable in the mix here, right? Let's complicate this pie chart of variables a little bit by throwing in a brand new study that just came out a week ago from the Jerusalem Post. Okay. From the Jerusalem Post, aspirin lowers risk of COVID. New findings support preliminary Israeli trial. The treatment reduced risk of reaching mechanical ventilation by 44%. ICU admissions, listen to this, ICU admissions were lower by 43%. And an overall in-hospital mortality saw a 47% decrease.
Wow.
Simply from people taking aspirin unrelated to their COVID disease. So the article says over-the-counter aspirin could protect the lungs of COVID-19 patients and minimize the need for mechanical ventilation, according to new research at the George Washington University. The team investigated more than 400 COVID patients from hospitals across the United States who take aspirin unrelated to their COVID disease and found that the treatment reduced the risk of several parameters by almost half, reaching mechanical ventilation by 44%, ICU admissions by 43%, and overall hospital mortality by 47%. But the craziest part, listen to this. This is what got me. This is the one, and I was like, oh, okay, there could be something here to this. It said that, hold on, let me find it here in the article. As we learned about blah, 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 blah. There was a section in here about the fact that it reduced the actual infection rate, the rate that you get infected. Here it is. In addition to its effect on blood clots, they found that aspirin carried immunological benefits and that the group taking it was 29% less likely to become infected with the virus in the first place. What the hell is going on with aspirin, dude? 30% less likely to even get the virus in the first place just because you take aspirin? That is insane. I mean, that's a monumental effect compared to, what they claim the vaccines are supposed to do, right? I mean, 30%, that's basically a vaccine right there.
Yeah.
And, this is the best part. You remember this? This is the fun. You guys are going to love this one. You remember how we got somebody on the last stream, not last week, but this week before that, to say, this is why you got to ask them for real numbers. Because I told this person in the YouTube chat to define what effective means in terms of a vaccine. It's in the chat logs. You can go back and watch it. The guy said at least a 20% chance, at least a 20% reduction to define the term vaccine. And now look, we're getting 29% to be less likely to become infected with the virus in the first place just by taking aspirin. So by that person's definition of what a vaccine is, this is 50% more effective than his baseline definition of what a vaccine is supposed to do. So do you see now why you have to get people to give you hard numbers and actually define things? Because they get caught in bullshit like this. Because now that person has to admit that aspirin is more effective than his baseline definition of what a vaccine does. Because, unlike the vaccines they're giving you intravenously right now or intramuscularly, they don't prevent you from actually getting the virus, whereas simply taking a baby aspirin or an aspirin every day prevents you from getting the virus or increases your protection against the virus by 30%. I don't know about you, but these numbers are shocking to me. 44% ICU admissions, mortality but down by 47%, the actual infections down by 29%. Just from taking an aspirin. Do you see how Big Pharma might be interested in shutting down aspirin now?
Oh yeah, they're gonna put aspirin under a lock and key. They're gonna make sure you have to have a prescription to get it now, even though it's readily available over the counter and relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're gonna swoop in and take over that market.
So I'm gonna thicken the plot just a little bit here. Now, so we already established that this aspirin is not newsworthy at all, but it's in the news, coincidentally, demonizing aspirin immediately within 7 days of this brand new information showing bombshell protective effects against COVID. But let's thicken the plot just a little bit more here. Let's go back to this list of the announcements regarding the recommendations for aspirin. Now, if we go to this database, this is again the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force.org database list of all their public recommendations that they make regarding aspirin. And there are recommendations. Oh, let me just do a quick search here because I lost my filter. Aspirin. There are recommendations going back to like this particular recommendation for aspirin to talk to your doctor for taking it instead was first published back here way back in 2016. Look. Here it is right here, April 12th, 2016. Final recommendation statement. Aspirin used for primary prevention and cardiovascular disease and colorectal cancer. U.S. Preventive Service Task Force released a final recommendation, blah, blah, blah. Adults age 60 or 69 years should decide with their primary care if used for aspirin, et cetera, et cetera. Basically the same exact thing. Ask your doctor, okay? The recommendation here is almost identical to the one that they were talking about right now. So why didn't we hear about this back in... Was this breaking news all over every single media outlet back in 2016? I sure don't
No.
remember it. I don't
I don't
remember
remember
hearing
it
about it at
either.
all. And not only that, but look at all the other releases that they made regarding this. 2016, June 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 3 in 2021. Not a single one of those generated any media buzz, except for the one that happened to come out 7 days after we have widespread studies showing that aspirin is highly effective against COVID. I'm just saying, it's awfully coincidental. So, if this was a really big deal, if it was newsworthy, why didn't we hear about it 5 years ago? Or 4 years ago? Or 3 years ago? Or last year? That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Yeah, Corey says they're going to warn of the dangers of taking too much aspirin. Oh, yeah. No, like I was joking with my parents earlier today. They're going to start calling aspirin dog medicine or something like that, because
Yep.
dogs take it, or fish medicine or something like, oh, you take aspirin? Oh, what do you think, you're a fish, or you think you're a dog? Some baloney like that, because they have to, again, disincentivize, because we live in a clown world. This is clown world now, where we've taken aspirin for decades, but all of a sudden, 7 days after new studies come out that show it's highly effective against COVID, all of a sudden, aspirin is bad. Don't take aspirin anymore. Wow, this is insane.
Yeah, it is insane. This is really, we are in clown world, and I'm here today with you folks to catalog clown world.
We are documenting Clown World live. Somebody in 500 years is going to find this recording somewhere on a hard drive, because I'm going to save them all and put them in a vault. They're going to dig it up, and they're going to be like, "What, dude? Look at what was going on in 2021. Like they were changing the definitions of words like instantly overnight. They were telling people good medications were bad. They were telling fat people that was healthy, and they had no idea what the COVID was. Like, geez, this truly is quite a fascinating time to live through." Better stock up. Yeah, let's go to Costco, get a couple barrels, get some 50-gallon barrels of aspirin.
Get an oil drum full of aspirin.
That's hilarious. Okay, I heard the stereo's piling up here. Let's go to Holly.
I'm no scientist, but this whole aspirin and COVID situation actually makes a lot of sense, because the reason why you take aspirin to prevent heart attacks is because aspirin is a mild blood thinner, and that helps your blood move through what potentially could be clogged arteries. And the spike protein in the COVID virus actually is interacting with people's blood. That's what was causing a lot of the clots and things like that when people were first getting the virus naturally. So it would only make sense that something that's a mild blood thinner would help people with the sickness.
Now, that's a great point. And now compound that with what you just said and what we just talked about. The study, 29% increase in preventing even getting infected in the first place. Combine all that with the fact that we have never been told once to lose weight, which is the number one risk factor for severe outcomes. We've never been told to go outside, get natural vitamin D. We've never been told to get fresh air, get away from stagnant air from in the inside. We've never been told to exercise, get in shape, eat healthy, eat foods with vitamin D in them, get zinc, make sure you're up on zinc. These are just naturally available supplements and nutritional aspects that they could be telling us if they really, really wanted to prevent us from actually getting COVID, they would be doing. But the absence of all of that, compounded with the fact that we're now demonizing aspirin after this bombshell news comes out, it's got to make a thinking man wonder. If you got a functional brain, it's hard to not see a pattern here. That's all I'm saying. 916 in the house. What's up, Predator News? I'm not in 916 anymore, but...
I'm still here. Still stuck in California.
Let's see. Aspirin. Yeah. Oh. Corey's giving it to your dog. I didn't know that. Okay, so there you go. It is dog medicine. Let's go to Paul.
Goddamn, this baby aspirin shit. This is a red flag.
You think?
I was always wondering early on, like, if you remember this narrative, or this, data point, smokers were less likely to be affected by COVID in China. They had mentioned
I do remember that.
And it didn't make sense. It was kind of like, okay, so that's categorically a maladaptive health strategy. Whatever, it's not
Yeah.
good for you. But if you're a chronic smoker and you're like in your 50s or 60s, you may have had a heart attack. You probably have a doctor if you're in China, state healthcare, and you might already be on baby aspirin. It might have been confusing the signals.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense intuitively to the medically trained part of my mind.
There you go. See, it's the little things like that we gotta sit here and we gotta bounce off each other because we can come up with stuff. Now that is a great connection that probably nobody has ever actually considered. We see absurd things like the fact that smokers have less occurrence. Then you think to yourself, well, it's not the smoking, right? There's got to be some other variable involved, and that could very well be it right there. Oh, let's go to Holly here.
Okay, guys, I just did a little Google here, and it said aspirin also inhibits platelet aggregation and is used in prevention of blood clots, stroke, and myocardial infarction. Infarction? Yeah, so cool.
Myocardial. Where have I seen myocar for? Oh, yeah, the side effects of all the vaccines. Anyway, I'm going to say that low volume so the algorithm doesn't pick up the speech to text and then get me flagged. Let's see. Let's go to Osis.
So what you're telling me is we have the first deadly infectious disease that would not have wiped out the Native Americans? That's incredible. The Chinese didn't think of that? I guess maybe there's not enough of them. They felt bad for them. They only wanted to kill the fat white Americans.
Yeah, no, I think really this COVID is a disease of excess. It's a disease that only affects societies that have grown to such a state where health is no longer a concern, where you can get fat and nobody's going to tell you not to. You can get fat and be told that you're still healthy. You can completely neglect your nutrition. You can completely neglect your, vitamin D, sunlight exposure, your sleep, your alcohol intake. We're all caffeine addicted drug addicts. We're all taking pharmaceuticals. Like we're a weak population in general, and that is why COVID had any effect on us at all. If we were healthy, if we weren't 80% overweight, I think COVID would have been just like a little blip on the seasonal cold thing that came through. But instead, because of the fact that we are so weak, and now we have to, there in turn, put all these protections in place, the mandates in place, the vaccines in place, all these restrictions on your life are because we are such a collectively weak state. Remember that. It's not because COVID is bad. It's not because COVID is so deadly. It's because we as a people are so weak that we have to protect ourselves from our weakness by building up the house of cards even further and throwing more cards on the stack to reinforce the house from falling down. So every time, at the bottom of the stack is we're all fat and obese and terribly unhealthy. But if we just throw more cards on the stack, restrictions, mandates, all this kind of stuff, then it may not fall down right now. It'll fall down sometime, but it's not going to fall down right now. So we're really we're in a race kind of against time to see if we can outlast all these artificial protections that we have put in place due to the fact that we are so terribly unhealthy and pathetic as a society.
I'm just waiting for a big gust of wind to come in and knock down the house of cards. I'm just waiting and just.
I mean, COVID almost did it, and it was like just a breeze.
Yeah, I'm waiting for just a nice big gust to just knock it all down and watch everybody have a meltdown at the breakdown of the house. It's going to be amazing.
Well, that's why I'm building my own tiny house, so I can be out of society when the cards come crumbling down, which I think very likely happen sometime in our lifetime here. Okay, let's we'll let Holly close us out here. Better be a good one.
I remember too about the smokers not getting the COVID as badly as other people are doing, and that was blowing people's minds. So the one study that I did read, don't know if it's peer-reviewed or whatever, but it was something to do with the nicotine molecule. It uses the same cleavage as one of the spike proteins on the virus. So if your lungs are full of the nicotine, it doesn't give a spot for the virus to connect to. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. It's just something that I read.
Yep. And it's the kind of thing that they don't want to talk about. They like if you were really in an effort to prevent this thing from if we really wanted to stop this thing, which it doesn't seem like we are, we would be having conversations about stuff like that. We would be having conversations about the fact that in a similar manner, vitamin D like blocks the site where the virus, again, like attaches to the cells or whatever the hell it is. Again, I don't know. There's mechanical effects in action that are complex because nobody wants to explain it to us about how we can prevent this thing. You have to go out and search for the information on your own. But it all leads to the same conclusion that a thinking objective observer like we are. Again, I'm not anti-vax, I'm not pro-vax, I'm just an objective observer trying to look at reality and interpret it so that I can adapt and thrive for myself. That's it. I don't care about convincing other people about my way of living. And an objective observer like me has to logically come to the conclusion that we aren't actually trying to eradicate this thing. We aren't actually trying to stop COVID anymore. It's all looking more and more like we're now on a farm and people are being farmed like stalks of corn for their revenue that they can generate for big pharma companies. And we are just, we need to maintain the stalks of corn. You don't want to cut them down. You don't want them to get healthy. You want them to maintain reliance on the pharmaceutical companies so that, they can generate the revenue. But that is the logical, objective conclusion that I'm coming to right now, and that could change tomorrow. Yeah, exactly, Osis. It's the Matrix. We're all in our little pods just being harvested for our ability to generate revenue and taxes. So that's I'm willing to change my opinion on a dime if more and more information comes out that supports a different narrative. But that's judging by the data and what I'm seeing out there right now. I mean, this aspirin thing is just another grain of sand on a gigantic pile. So,
yeah. I mean, we called it out like last year when we first started doing this stream. We're all just debt cattle, and the more and more dependence that we have on these government entities to, tell us what to do with ourselves, the fatter the debt cattle becomes. So I'm all for not increasing the debt cattle and making the debt cattle fatter. I'm about having the debt cattle be free of being a debt cattle and living life and just enjoying what this world has to offer, as opposed to being in fear of a virus.
Amen to that. And I think we'll end it right here on this guy's chat in the YouTube chat. He says, Chris Winter says, zero fear for the virus. The measurements are way more sickening. And I'm not sure if you're referring to the measurements of the actual cases and the deaths, but absolutely agree. We know for a fact that those numbers are being fudged. You can look at cases in like Alameda County or several counties in California had to revise their death counts because they just decided to change the criteria arbitrarily to be different than the states. And then when they changed it back to the states, well, guess what? 25% of all the deaths just disappeared. Isn't that fascinating? But I think that's a great thing to do, is just live completely without fear. I've been doing it for over a year now. I haven't worn a mask in, I'd say, I wore a mask to go get an antibody test. That was the first. I wore a mask one time in the last 5 months. So I'm going to movies, I'm going out to bars, I'm going out to restaurants. I don't care at all. It's just normal life for me. That's it.
Same. Even though like in California we have mask mandates, I just go into the store without a mask and nobody says crap to me. And I think a lot of people are just over it, or it's not even like worth the fight anymore for a lot of people. It's like I could either fight this person and yell at them and berate them, or I could just let them do their shopping and leave. So like you got to pick your battles, and I just choose to live my life freely. And if people want to come at me and not want to take my money when I go to their store to spend it, then I'll go somewhere else, because there's plenty of stores out there that don't give a crap.
Well said. I think if there's anything you want to worry about, legitimate fears could be directed towards things like supply chain outages, the reduction in staffing of trucking companies, things like that, the shipping ports being closed down. So basically what I'm saying is, if you want to worry about something, take it more towards like the prepper angle. Go stock up on some toilet paper, get some rice, get some all this stuff like that you might need when there's a shortage. So you're not out at the stores with the hordes of unwashed masses trying to fight over a roll of toilet paper. So that's where
waiting 3 months for your Amazon shipment to come in because the ports are so backed up that they can't get your stuff from China.
Exactly. Yep. So there you go, guys. I think that'll do it for us tonight. Cut it right at just over 2 hours. Thank you for
Yep.
joining us as usual. You guys know we can find us every Wednesday right here on youtube.com/weekly narrative. And the podcast is available on Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify, or Stitcher, iTunes, and Google under the name The Alt-Centrist. So if you want to listen to the recorded podcast version of this, just search for The Alt-Centrist. You'll find us on those podcast platforms. Otherwise, we will see you guys back here next Wednesday.
Yep. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night. Love y'all. Hugs and kisses from California.
Stay safe out there, folks. Get some toilet paper.
Yep.